Welcome everybody to the department's pre-proposal orientation session. My name is Gigi Kyrell. I am the grant specialist at the Department of Hawaiian Homeland's Planning Office. With me this morning is Michael Lowe. Michael is with our Information and Community Relations Office and will be assisting me with the technology. So let's go ahead and get started, Michael, and if you can bring the PowerPoint presentation.
Stand by one moment, please. Okay, Gigi, can you see?
Yes, I got the screen.
Okay, perfect.
Great, thank you so much. So again, welcome everybody to the department's orientation session on the recently released grant opportunities. And mahalo for attending this morning's session and for your time away from your families. We hope you are all healthy and in a safe place for today. First of all, I want to thank you, our beneficiaries, and others for helping us at the state legislature and to voice your support for the department's budget. Many of you are organized as all volunteer associations, so even more so, mahalo for your time and efforts to support the trust. This was an historic moment for the department at the legislature. The Ledge gave us an infusion of $10 million for existing homestead services. This is separate and apart from the $600 million that many of you have heard about. The Hawaiian Homes Commission approved a portion from that $10 million to be administered through the department's community grants program. The commission also approved $1 million from the Native Hawaiian Rehabilitation Fund. So in total, we have $8.5 million in available grants statewide. This is 8 times more than our regular allocation for grants. I want to thank Chairman William Ayla and the Hawaiian Homes Commission for allocating these new funds to the department's grants program. This is one-time only funding for this current fiscal year, which started July 1, 2022 and ends June 30, 2023. We are under a timeline to get these funds out the door and into our homestead communities. We often talk about needing funds for community projects. Well, now we've been blessed. Now it's up to all of us, you, the community, your partners, and the department to show we can perform and pull down these funds and use them quickly and responsibly to support our homesteads and our beneficiaries. There's a lot of eyes on these funds and a time pressure to show progress. We're hitting the ground running to get these funds out in the community as quickly as possible. Let's all do our part and show what we can do together. So here's the agenda. We'll go over the purpose of today's meeting, then do a summary overview of the 4 grant opportunities. Then we'll go over the highlights of the RFPs. Highlights only. This is not intended to be a line-by-line review of every page. We will take questions at the end of the presentation. Chat box first, raise hand, and then we'll call on people if anyone's on the phone. Please note that general responses may be provided to clarify RFP requirements only at this meeting. We prefer that you send questions to the dhhl.grants email address. Written questions are being accepted up until August 12. Next slide, please. So the purpose for today's orientation is to provide an overview of the department's grant opportunities so you become familiar with them. There are 4 requests for proposals, or what we call RFPs. We will briefly cover each one. And then secondly, tonight's session is to clarify RFP requirements. Lastly, this orientation is only intended to highlight and clarify the information that's already in the RFPs. Everyone is advised to read the RFPs carefully. They have the information that's needed to prepare and submit a proposal. Next slide. For many of you who have attended department meetings, this is our standard meeting kuleana. We all have kuleana to make this a productive meeting. We ask everyone to be respectful. Please give chance to others before speaking again. And again, we ask that you please hold questions after the presentation is powered. You may use the chat box at any time throughout the presentation, and we'll take up those comments when we are done with the presentation. If we do not get to your question or we run out of time, please also email us at dhhl.grants@hawaii.gov. Next slide. The RFPs are available on the State Procurement Office HANDS website. And please note, this is the legal required location where the department has to post all of our procurements. So that website will have the most complete and up-to-date information. As a courtesy, we also posted the RFPs on the DHHL website. So if you're going to check anything, always check that HANDS website. It will have the most up-to-date information. Because this is a formal procurement process, questions at this orientation may be responded to in a general way. Again, we ask that you send written questions to the email address. The department's responses will be posted on the State Procurement Office website by September 9 to all written questions we have received. If you missed the August 12th deadline for questions, you may still send them. The difference is we may not get to your questions as quickly as we can. That's also why we set the deadline. So we'll be sure to respond to those questions received by the deadline. Next slide. This is a snapshot of the State Procurement Office HANDS website. If you're not familiar with it, it is a little clunky to use. The best way to pull up the RFPs is to go to the box that says enter keywords and simply enter the RFP identification number that you wish to review. Then that'll take you immediately to that page. I'm sure there's other ways to get to our RFPs, but this is what I found the most simplest, is if you have the RFP number, just simply enter it in that keywords box. Next slide. Okay, here is a summary, and we will briefly go over this first, and then we will break down each RFP. So there are 4 grant opportunities. Funds are available for projects statewide in any community. Our grants program uses the state procurement method called request for proposal, also known as competitive sealed proposals. Our grants program has always been an open and transparent process. Everything goes to commission. There is a grants review committee that reviews and evaluates proposals, makes recommendation to the commission. Commission meetings are open to the public. So applicants, your partners, any beneficiary, even the general public, may provide public testimony before the commission at any point in the process. This year, we are planning to bring the committee's recommendations to the November 21 and 22 commission meeting. So if you're interested in submitting testimony, please go to the department's website on how to submit verbal and/or written testimony. So starting at the top, the first RFP is identification number RFP-23-HHL-001. This is a grant opportunity for improvements to existing facilities located on Hawaiian homelands. There's a maximum per application limit of $1 million. There's $3 million total available statewide. The source of funds is coming from the state general funds. Please note for this RFP, new facility projects are not eligible. So anything from planning, design, construction on a new facility is not eligible. The next RFP 002 is a grant opportunity for existing programs and services to existing homesteads or lessees. The maximum per application is 500,000. There is 4.5 million available statewide. And this too is also from the state general funds. Again, the purpose is for existing programs and services that are serving existing homesteads. Same restriction, no new facility projects are eligible. The next opportunity is 003. It's a grant for project implementation. This is pretty much the catch-all grant if your project does not fit one or two. This one is $100,000 maximum per application. There's 700,000 available statewide total. And the NERF funds or trust funds is the source. So we have a little more flexibility. So this is for any project assisting and benefiting any beneficiaries, lessees and applicants. This includes new facilities, regional plan projects, basically, anything under the sun. And then lastly, we have 004, which is a grant for community capacity building. For this year only, we increased the maximum. It used to be $5,000 per application. This year, we increased it to 15,000. That's 15. And there's 300,000 total available. The source is trust funds. Capacity building includes many things, including board training, strategic planning, updating a business plan, fund development, grant writing. So pretty much, anything that you need administratively to operate your nonprofit, to build knowledge and skills within the community. So as we all know, you need to read the fine print, and the devil is in the details, right? So again, please read the RFPs very carefully. Today, we're just touching on some of the highlights. So let's go ahead and break it down. Next slide. Starting with 001, grant for improvements to existing facilities. Existing facility means a physical asset that your organization currently manages and or operates. Plus, it also means you already have site control. What we mean by that is that the department land disposition is in the same name as the grant applicant. So this would be a right of entry, a license, or a general lease. Or you could be a sublease under any one of those. So again, existing facility. So those are things like a community center, a building, a farmer's market. Those are the most common that the department has on Hawaiian homeland. Funds available, $3 million total. Maximum per application is $1 million. And the grant period for which to spend the funds is up to 6 years with no option to time extend. And the reason we're doing this is there are many, many other projects that need funding. And these are state funds. We want them spent and out the door. If within 6 years you're not able to spend them, the funds come back to the department so we can try and support other projects that are in need. This RFP has a one application limit, one application per organization. Next slide. Okay, this is 002, grant for existing programs and services for existing homesteads. Existing programs means any program and or service that your organization is currently operating and where clients and or participants are primarily lessees. This is a very specific requirement. Again, these are the state funds, and that was the restriction placed on these funds, is that they be used for lessees. The only ineligible projects are housing counseling, homeownership assistance, emergency assistance. Please refer to page 13 in the RFP for a little bit more explanation. The reason we are doing this is because the department has already funded these particular programs. So we already have vendors providing this service. And we did not want to, duplicate, funding additional services in these areas. So funds available, 4.5 million statewide. Maximum per application is 500,000. This has the same grant period of 6 years with no option to extend. And again, the same limit, 1 application per organization. So let me take just a brief pause here. As you probably have noticed, RFP 001 and 002 have something called existing homestead services. It is a requirement. It's the only condition from the state legislature that came with these funds. So this is why those are restricted primarily to for services and facilities that benefit lessees. The only other condition from the ledge is that the department must get these funds encumbered into a contract by June 30th, 2023. So we are starting early in our process. Usually we start grants like in October. So we're starting actually in July, we release the RFPs, and this week we're holding the orientation sessions. So there is a time pressure to get through the grant cycle, the application process, and then get the awards into a contract. No other instructions were provided by the ledge on these special funds. Okay, moving on to 003 and 004. Next slide. 003 is the grant for project implementation. And as I mentioned earlier, it's pretty much the catch-all if your project does not fit in the earlier two. You can do new facility projects, so any due diligence, the EA, the planning phase, design, construction, as well as any other programs or services, any new programs or currently operating that will benefit all beneficiaries, lessees, and applicants. This one does have the same restriction. Ineligible projects are housing counseling, homeownership assistance, and emergency assistance. Funds available, 700,000 total statewide. A maximum per application is 100,000. Same time period, 6 years, no option to extend. And the limit is 1 application per organization. So, both 2 and 3 are very similar. It can cover new facilities, economic development, health and well-being, food security, community safety. So the key differences between 2 and 3, 002 is funded by the state general funds. So it is restricted to servicing existing homesteads, lessees primarily. 003 is funded by trust funds. So projects can serve any and all Hawaiian Homes Commission Act beneficiaries, lessees, and applicants. New facility projects can also be funded under 003. This includes due diligence, planning, design, construction. And of course, lastly, the dollar amounts are different. 002 you can apply for up to 500,000. 003 has a limit of 100,000. So think of it this way. If you need 100,000 or less, go to door number 3, and it has less restrictions. Ask for what it is your project needs. So as mentioned, for 001, 2, and 3, there is a limit of 1 application per organization. This is to give chance to all homesteads. We have over 50 homesteads across the state. So there's not enough funds. Well, we think 8.5 million is a lot. There's not enough to cover and give chance to everybody. If all the funds are not allocated, the department can shift funds from one RFP to another. And remember, these are highly competitive funds. Proposals must meet the criteria. Next slide. The last grant is 004, Community Capacity Building. This RFP seeks proposals to build, strengthen, and enhance community capacity within the beneficiary community, lessees, and applicants. Total funds available statewide, 300,000. Maximum per application, 15,000. This one has a grant period of 4 years with no option to time extend. This is the only RFP where there is no limit. A single applicant may submit multiple proposals as long as the proposed project is different. And the reason we are doing that is because we have many homesteads that are what's called unincorporated nonprofits. They are not registered with the DCCA. They are casual, informal groups. So they would need to partner with a nonprofit to submit a proposal on their behalf. And whoever that nonprofit is, they could partner with 2 or 3 other homesteads and submit applications for each one of them. So this is why this particular one, we are allowing a single organization to submit multiple proposals in those kinds of situations. There is a partial list on page 60 on the types of capacity building activities that could be funded. Ideally, we'd like to see projects that are peer-to-peer or a train-the-trainer concept where a beneficiary is mentoring another beneficiary. That would be ideal, not required, but ideal. Capacity building includes board governance training, strategic planning, community visioning, leadership succession, project management, financial management, community outreach. We funded websites, website design, and newsletters, community newsletters. So there's a number of things that can be done under this particular grant. Next slide. Okay, so that ends the, oh, sorry, one more thing. For the capacity building grant, no matter what life cycle stage your nonprofit is in, whether you're fairly new and emerging, you're in a growth spurt, you're a mature organization, or you're in a time of renewal, all are welcome to apply. RFP 004 is not only for new associations. In order, as you know, boards come and go, needs in your community change over time. So in order for your organization, no matter how old you are, to stay current and responsive to community needs, capacity building will always be needed. Generally, strong organizations are very self-aware of their capacity needs. So I encourage all and everyone to apply for the capacity building grant. Okay, this next part of the presentation, we will do a section by section, again, highlights only. This is common to all of the RFPs. They have the same page numbers, the same section numbers. If you wish to follow along, please have a copy of the RFP in front of you. You can pick any one, it doesn't matter. Okay, starting on pages 1 and 2, this talks about how to submit the proposal. We expect a complete proposal to be submitted electronically by 2 o'clock on October 6th. No piecemeal. You are responsible for assembling your proposal and for making a one-time electronic submittal. If the file sizes are too large, you may break them down and send them in consecutive emails. There are examples of how to label your emails. Please make sure you label them properly so nothing gets lost. There is only one email address to submit proposals for any of the RFPs, dhhl.grants, rfp@hawaii.gov. Please submit your proposals in PDF and or JPEG files only. Please do not include any links or websites or any cloud storage links. Grant review committee members can only review what's in the electronic files. They cannot click on links. Applicants are encouraged to submit your proposal in advance of the deadline. This is to help you assure your proposal was received by the department in a timely manner. Secondly, it assures that the department can open and read your proposal. And lastly, if we're not able to open nor read the proposal, we can then notify you and you'll have enough time to resubmit your proposal before the deadline. All proposals, whether modified or not, they still need to be submitted by the deadline. And also note the department will not check for completeness until after the October 6th deadline. Next slide. Okay, section 1, solicitation description, found on pages 5 and 6. The timetable. This is super important. As many of you know, I'm probably preaching to the choir. If you're not the paperwork person or the deadline person, make sure you get somebody who is when it comes to any grant writing actually. Next slide. Here are the dates. Dates are subject to change. If there is a change, an addendum will be posted on the State Procurement Office website. We are holding the orientations this week. Today is the last orientation. They are all being recorded and you can view the recordings on the DHHL website at any time. We are giving the standard 60 days to prepare your proposal. Actually, there's a little more. We gave 10 extra days. So you have a total of 70 days to prepare the proposals. August 12th is the due date to submit written questions. Please submit them to the dhhl.grants@hawaii.gov email. Before or by September 9, the department will post its responses on the state procurement website. If for some reason you need to withdraw your proposal and or modify your proposal after you sent it, you need to make that request by September 30. And then of course, October 6th is the final deadline to submit your complete proposal. Even if you modified your proposal, the proposal must still be submitted by the October 6th deadline. Next slide. Still in section 1, solicitation description, page 7, amendments to RFPs. We just wanted to note that it is your responsibility to check the State Procurement Office and website for any addendum. The department will only notify applicants. If you have not yet submitted your proposal to us, we will not know to notify you. Page 9, there's a section called availability of funds. What does this mean? Funds are subject to governor budget execution policies. We will not know until the commission approves the grant awards scheduled for November on the actual availability of funds. The state has a very interesting process on how they allocate funds. And because these are state funds, we have to follow their protocols. So, so I did want to mention, if for some reason your project has a timeline, and if the availability of the department's funds is going to impact your project, please state that in your application so that we are aware. Say you are already got your federal grant and you need our funds to show that they're matching funds for your federal grant. Say that in your application. That makes us aware of any kind of time limitations or time restrictions you may have. Next slide. Section 2, the department award information. This is found on page 11. Again, this is just stating the award period and that there is no time extensions, so there's no renewal for the award. We want the funds to be totally spent. Any unspent funds will be returned to the department. There are many other projects in need of department funds. Next slide. Section 3, eligibility. Basically, we are opening up all 4 RFPs to any and all nonprofits. At minimum, your nonprofit should be registered with the state of Hawaii. You should be able to print out a certificate of good standing. You can be a nonprofit under Hawaii Revised Statute 414D, like David. That's the Nonprofit Corporation Act. That's the most common legal status that most nonprofits have. You can also be organized under HRS 421J, the Planned Community Law. Those are ones that we call the DCCR homesteads. So if you are organized under that statute, you are eligible also. And then lastly, if you are a IRS 501c3, a charitable nonprofit corporation, you are also eligible. So we've kept the eligibility pretty broad and wide. Again, these are a lot of funds. We would like to give opportunity to all our homesteads and their partners.
Hi, Gigi. Can we ask questions?
Oh, aloha. No, we did ask at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, during the brown rules. Please wait till the end of the presentation. Throughout the presentation, you can enter in the chat box. We do prefer questions in writing so that the department can respond in writing. Thank
Mahalo.
you. Okay, let's see. Where was I? Okay, so on page 12, here in section 3, applicant shall demonstrate a majority of their clients or their participants are beneficiaries. And page 12, sections 3 and 4, those basically say an organization can only submit one application for each RFP, except for 004, as we discussed earlier. Moving down the page, there's a section called Connection to the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. This is very important. So again, we are the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. We are a trust agency, and we serve Hawaiian Homes Commission Act beneficiaries. So you, the applicant, must show a connection to the homestead or homesteads that the facility or the program serves. So examples are a board resolution from the area homestead that you're planning to serve, support letters from organizations and or individuals, individual testimonials from beneficiaries that have used your facility or used your program and telling us, that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. So those are just examples, but however way you want to show your connection to the homestead and to our beneficiaries, that's what we're looking for in that category. And just as a reference point, attachment A to the RFPs is a listing of existing homesteads and the number of leases. So you may use that as a reference. It is a monthly report that the department submits to the commission. So it includes every homestead and the number of leases. So especially for RFP 001 and 002, where those are restricted to lessees, you may want to consider including, reference to, XYZ homestead per the attachment A. It shows 800 lessees, and that's who this program is intended for. So that's how you might want to use attachment A. Next slide. Okay, page 14, certifications. Again, just pointing out some highlights. Today is not intended to go line by line, just some areas to pay attention to. So item number 1, licenses, permits. Part of this has to do with site control. If your project is like a facility on Hawaiian homelands, or you are renting space in a building that's on Hawaiian homelands, things like that, you need to show that you have site control. So this would mean a right of entry, a license, a general lease, or a sublease, showing that you're renting space there. The land disposition must be in the same name as the grant applicant. We cannot waive that. It has to be one in the same organization. Item number 2 is a form M, like Mary. It's found on page 79. It's a partner certification form. Every key partner or project team member must sign this form, and 2 signatures are required. Can be electronic, that's fine. Usually it would be the board president and the chief of staff, executive director, or key volunteer. Those would be the 2 signatures needed. You must include a brief description on the partner's role. How are they participating in the project? Are they delivering, what tasks are they delivering? Or are they in an advisory role? But basically, give a description of what their role is. This information is needed to help demonstrate how you and how your project, how ready it is to implement, and that you have a team in place ready to go. We understand that after the grant is awarded, anything can happen in the implementation that may cause a partner to fall out, and that's okay. It happens. We will deal with those kinds of situations at the time it happens. The grant proposal is just that, a proposal. It's a plan based on the best available information you have at the time. Item number 3, nonprofit status, as we were talking earlier. If you are a 414D, general nonprofit, or you are a 421J, planned community, or DCCR homestead, please attach your certificate of good standing. If you are a 501c3, attach your IRS determination letter. Number 4 is the Hawaii Compliance Express. That is a state requirement. We cannot waive that at all, no exceptions. You must include your certificate, no more than 3 months old. If you do not know your status, I would suggest immediately after today's meeting, check your status. Sometimes if there's a problem with the certificate, sometimes it's an easy fix. More times than not, it's a very long-term fix and can take several weeks. I know of proposals submitted in the past where they never got their compliance certificate. And unfortunately, we've had to reject those. So make sure you check on that Hawaii Compliance Express. Item number 5 is another form, Form F like Frank. It's found on page 72. It's a board governance certification. Here, you, the applicant, is certifying that you have a board that is not compensated, that it serves on a volunteer basis. You are also certifying that you have bylaws or policies that govern how your business is conducted, including policies and procedures on procurement for proposed projects, particularly those involving construction. Those involve construction contracts and big dollar amounts. You should have a procurement policy for transparency. You should also have a policy on conflict of interest and nepotism. That's usually a general best practice policy for any nonprofit. You should also have a policy on conflict and dispute resolution. These are for situations, internal communications among your board, among your organization, as well as how you handle external communications with the community. And then lastly, matching funds and in-kind donations. These are optional. Extra points are given if you are going to contribute matching funds. The match funds should be within the same time period as the grant, as the department grant period. Next slide. Section 4, application. This is found on page 16. Please note, we do have a checklist on page 56. That's for you to use as your guide to ensure you have a complete proposal. So again, a complete proposal has 4 parts. Part 1 is the application cover sheet. It's that one's about just 1 page. Part 2 is the proposal request itself. This is where you want to spend the bulk of your time. This is your proposal narrative, your budget narrative, and your timeline. That's where you want to spend the most of your time. And then as a side note, also keep in mind that the grants review committee may or may not be familiar with your homestead nor your project. So you'll need to provide enough information to give some context so that any reviewer can get a good picture of who you're trying to serve, where, and what your project is. Part 3 are the required forms and attachments. And then part 4 is any other materials that is optional. Basically, it's anything else you want to add to support your proposal. I do encourage photos, maps. Those are worth 1,000 words, newsletters, things like that. Again, you want those to be as relevant as possible to support your proposal. Someone did ask at one of the previous orientations if there is a page limit. No, there is no page limit. And especially it's easier now because it's an electronic submittal. So you can load up our email as much as you want. Okay, next slide. Section 6, the application evaluation. As I mentioned, the department always uses a grants review committee. They are qualified people with background and experience in the types of projects we've seen. They are appointed by the chairman. This year, we have at least one review committee member who is a non-DHHL person. We want to go as strictly by the book as we can for this particular year because of this one-time funding. So there are 2 phases to the evaluation process. So starting October 6th, when all the proposals are submitted, the first thing the department does is check every proposal is complete. They have all those 4 parts that I mentioned. All the forms are completed and signed, etc. If there are any missing items, the proposal is automatically rejected. So please, I encourage, submit in advance so we can do a quick look and see if anything is anything we could tell is odd or off. Phase 2 is the grants review committee evaluation. There's criteria there, items 1 through 7. There are 4 categories where the committee will score. Organizational capacity, that includes your entire project team. So you do want to include everybody's resumes or a brief description of what skills they bring to the project. Project readiness, how ready are you to implement? Can you hit the ground running on day 1? Or are you going to need ramp up time? Beneficiary involvement, how were the beneficiaries involved in determining the need for the project? How will beneficiaries be involved in implementing the project? And then lastly, sustainability. Because this is one-time only funding, it's unlikely we'll ever see this kind of funding again. We do want to see what are your plans to sustain the project? You may also want to consider setting aside part of your budget towards developing a fund development plan and or hiring a grant writer to search for grants and apply. So you can use a portion of the budget for that as well. To the right are the bonus points. So we talked about match. You can earn up to 5 additional points if you are contributing match. This applies to all of the RFPs. And then for RFP 002 and 003 only, if it is an identified regional plan priority project, you can receive another 5 points. It has to be a priority project, not a potential project, not a project that's just listed in the plan. It has to be identified as a priority project. You will also need to cite the page number of the plan so that we can verify that priority project is in line with your proposal. We did have a question the other day that the community is going through the regional plan right now. The plan must already have been approved by commission in order for it to count as a priority project. Okay. So I do know there's at least one regional plan that's going through the process right now, and it may not receive commission approval before October 6th. If that is the case, then any of those projects will not get the extra points. Next slide. Section 8, these are just attachments, simply for reference purposes only. We talked about attachment A, the department's monthly lease report showing the number of leases per homestead. Attachment B is the state general conditions. So if you are awarded a grant, the general conditions automatically are attached to the contract. Attachment C is the contract forms. This again is to give you an idea if you are awarded a grant, what the contract forms may look like, and the department will fill those in. Next slide. Section 9, grant application forms. Please answer the questions completely and fill out the forms best you can. Also note, some forms are simply cover sheets. Place them on top of the requested document. Some forms say sample. Applicant has discretion as to the format as long as the content does not significantly change. And please print on your organization's letterhead. Okay, on page 60, this is very important. Provide examples of active collaboration with the homestead associations or areas that you're planning to serve, with other nonprofits in the area, and with local community resources. What we're looking for here is active collaboration. Homestead and applicants are served by many associations, other nonprofits, and other community organizations. Provide examples or documentation on how you actively collaborate. We're interested to see your outreach efforts to these other organizations that may be serving the same area and are providing similar service as you do. Page 61, question number 3. This is all about track record. Here we want to see in your last 5 years, any grants, whether it's a department grant or not. We want to see what you were able to accomplish, how you're able to expend the funds. So we want to see your track record and give us examples from previous grant projects, whether it's a department grant or a grant from any other funder. Next slide. This is a snapshot of what the checklist looks like. It's found on page 56. Please use it as a guide to help you assemble your proposal and make sure it's complete. Next slide. Okay, I reserved the last couple slides just for some closing words. So again, here are the websites. The State Procurement Office. That one will always have the most complete and the most up-to-date information. That is where the department and any other state agency, we are required to post all of our procurements on that website. Here is the department's website. The only difference here is that the Zoom recordings will be posted on the department website. It also has similar information as the HANDS website. It is a courtesy posting, so we will try to keep it as up to date as we can. Contact information, where do I submit the proposal? There's the email address. We only have one email address to submit proposals for any of the RFPs. So please follow the instructions and label your email appropriately. Where do I submit questions? Again, we are taking written questions up until August 12th. The email address is posted here on where to send questions. Please limit, your phone calls to the department. There really isn't much we can say. Most phone calls I've been getting, my generic answer has been, please go back and read the RFPs. The reason for this is we are in a formal state procurement process. I don't want to have any misunderstandings of giving any impression of accepting an idea, a proposal, intending to award, anything like that. Everyone should have a fair and equal chance at submitting a proposal. Next slide. What's a good proposal? I get asked this a lot, and many of you on the call are professional grant writers. I'm sure you have many other advice. So here's some general advice. The proposal needs to be complete and instructions were followed. Every year I do get a handful that I have had to write that letter of rejection because some document was missing or something wasn't clear in the proposal. So make sure it's complete, follow the checklist. There is a chance if you find a mistake or you want to rewrite a section, you have a chance to notify us and tell us you're going to modify your proposal. That's okay. And then resubmit the proposal. So there is a chance to resubmit. The resubmittal also still needs to be turned in on October 6th, no exceptions. Your proposed scope, your narrative, your budget, your timeline should all be in alignment. What that means is every section of your proposal should be telling the same story. There should be a logic to your proposal from page 1 to the very end, including the attachments. They all need to say the same story and support what it is you're proposing. Please keep your proposal brief and concise, well-written, and error-free. Again, there is no page limit, but hopefully all the attachments you include are all relevant and help support your proposal. Again, the proposal needs to have enough relevant information and documentation to help the committee understand your proposal. And as I mentioned earlier, committee members may or may not be familiar with your homestead, nor with your project. And lastly, I cannot emphasize enough, sorry, I live in town, so I get a lot of ambulances. Okay. So most importantly, applicants and the project, you need to demonstrate you have a strong connection to beneficiaries. These are just examples of how to show that. So whatever way you feel you can show you have a strong connection to the beneficiaries, that's up to you. These are just some examples: board resolution, support letters, community meetings with sign-in sheets, community survey. What else have I seen? Petitions. I've seen people circulate petitions for, but you know, if you're going to do a petition or community meeting, whoever signs it, they need to say, they need to identify themselves as beneficiaries. If there is nothing that indicates they're a beneficiary, we will assume they are not. So it's very important that as you do community meetings or you circulate petitions, you know, have some kind of checkbox or something that they are beneficiaries. Next slide. I think it's my last slide, right? Okay, final words. Funder fit. So I use this when I do grant writing training. Funder fit. What this means is, you know, the department should not be your only funder. Because the project is on Hawaiian homelands, it does not necessarily mean that the department is the only funder. So take a hard look at each of the RFPs. If you believe your project fits, you meet the criteria, your board can decide whether to apply or not. If your project does not fit, or you're trying to force fit, it's probably not a fit. And that's okay. You know, again, the department does not have to be the funder for everything. So that's what we call funder fit. You know, don't go chasing the money. I know everybody likes 001 because it's the biggest dollar amount, $1 million. But if you don't currently manage or operate a facility, then that's not the one. So don't go chasing the money just based on the dollar amount. Apply for what you need. If you need 100,000 or less, then 003 is probably the one for you. Okay, apply for what you need. That's what's most important. Have a project plan. If you don't already have a project plan, you might want to go to door number 4, capacity building, to develop your project plan. All proposals must address the criteria. Again, these are highly competitive funds, not enough for everybody. And money isn't everything. It's part of it. It also takes the people the talent, the skills, the leadership, good communications, and of course, the administrative capacity, the paperwork. When you start getting grant funds, and I'm preaching to the choir, it comes with a lot of paperwork. So lastly, let's show demand for these monies. If we go over 8.5 million, that's okay. I can go and try and request for more. It will also give us some, it'll give us a point to be able to go back to the ledge to show them we did spend the 8.5 and we need more because we have several other applications that came in that we didn't have enough money for. You know, that would be a good argument we can have down at the Capitol. So I wish everyone luck, and I look forward to receiving many proposals. I know there's a lot of good projects out there. There's a lot of good organizations out there. We're all in this together to support our homesteads and beneficiary communities. Mahalo, everyone. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Let us go into questions. We'll take the chat box first. Let me
Okay,
pull, let me see, where is chat box?
I have it right here.
Oh, good.
So this one is from Sybil. Sybil asks, I have a question. Wine Homes Commission just passed the Malama Cultural Park, SAP. Our HBA is interested in implementing actions within the plan. What grants will we be able to apply for?
Okay, so we just went over the department's new grants. We have 4 requests for proposals that were released. Please take a look at every one of those. Any one organization can submit 1 application to each RFP, except for number 4, 004, the capacity building. A single applicant may apply multiple times for that one. So take a look, and the requirements are pretty clear, and see which RFP or RFPs are relevant to what your community is trying to implement.
Okay, thank you, Gigi. At this time, I don't see any more questions in the chat. So let's see. Let's offer this for anybody who'd like to ask a question verbally on the Zoom. Here's what you do. Down at the bottom menu on the Zoom call, on the right, near the right-hand side, you'll see something called reactions. If you click on reactions, it'll give you the opportunity to raise your hand. And I see that Sybil has raised her hand, so we'll go ahead and take Sybil's question. But all you need to do if you want to ask a question is just click on the raise hand, and we'll go ahead and take those questions in order. So Sybil, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to open up your camera and your microphone and go ahead and ask your question, please.
Mahalo, it's just going to be a leading question to the question that Gigi answered in the chat. So it's not a regional plan priority project. It's a special area plan, one of 3 in the state of Hawaii that DHL Hawaiian Homes Commission approved. And so the reason why I asked is because you do have 4 RFPs. I do not want to submit on a say for maybe number 3, the RFP number 3, and it gets denied because it's not an appropriate grant for us to write for our Kalamola Mauka Homestead Association. There are 5 goals in that special area plan. And one of 5 of those goals is that we don't have a champion or a lead on the plan itself. And we actually wanted to build capacity within the canoe clubs with our homestead associations who are interested, and collaborate with the other community organization who is looking at Malama Park to try and figure out how we can build capacity to bring the park to where the plan allows us to. So I just want to make sure that I'm submitting for the appropriate grant and not being denied because of some type of circumstances that is not within the RFP. So that is my more detailed question on that one. Mahalo.
I have the same comment. Please read through each of the RFPs. You and your team should decide what to apply for. They're fairly open. The requirements are pretty clear. I cannot comment on a specific applicant, nor can I comment on a specific project. As mentioned earlier, we do not want to have any misunderstandings from the department side of giving any impression of award denial. Well, only you can determine the fit. You know, I cannot say I am familiar with, you know, any project or any plan. Even the ones I thought I'm familiar with their plan. I'm always learning something new. So it's best that as a department, we actually cannot comment, you know, on anything specific. I'm just simply referring everyone to go back to the RFPs, figure out what your specific situation project is, and you all decide which one fits best.
Okay, thank you, Gigi. This next question comes from the chat, and this question comes from Tia. Tia asks, are charter schools able to apply for any of these grants? And then it follows up with that serve a large majority population of Haumana that reside in Hawaiian homes housing.
Again, same comment. I cannot comment on a specific applicant or type of applicant. Please read the RFPs. And if your organization believes you can meet the criteria, that is up to you to decide whether to apply or not. And remember, there is the restriction on 001 and 002 that those must be targeted for lessees. So whether, you know, who, I don't know, you know, there's many other peoples that reside on Hawaiian homelands, but what we're interested in 001 and 002 is lessees. They have to be the lessee, that you're serving the lessee, primarily. Again, that's a restriction from the state ledge. It is a requirement of the funding source. The other two RFPs, 3 and 4, are flexible. Programs, projects under those two can serve any and all beneficiaries, lessees, and applicants.
Okay, thank you, Gigi. Soliciting for any other questions. Does anyone else have questions? If you can, again, go to the reactions and click on raise your hand. And if for some reason you don't have the reactions in the menu portion, you can also turn on your camera and raise your hand in the camera. That way we can see you and we'll take your questions that way. I see a question from Joseph. Joseph, if you could please unmute and ask your question.
Yes, aloha everyone. I'm a dentist who moved from the mainland in order to set up actually a dental mobile service for the south end of Hawaii Island after seeing a great need for dentistry there and also high quality tutoring. So my question is, as a mobile service, would I have any designated homestead that I could appeal to? Does that make any difference as to how I could qualify possibly?
Again, in the RFP, right, you need to show a connection to the beneficiary community. We also included a list of all the homesteads in the state of Hawaii. So you would need to identify, you know, which homesteads you intend to serve. You need to show your connection your outreach efforts. But the more you can be specific, about the areas and communities you are serving, that is key. We are the Department of Foreign Homelands, and we can only service our beneficiaries. Yeah, so it doesn't matter what type of service, a mobile service, one that's renting us office space. We have a current grantee who's doing food and care packages. They distribute those throughout the island. But they identify who the homesteads are.
Yeah, I have worked with certain organizations down there, and I have some contacts for sure that we worked with. But also I saw in the restrictions that vehicles definitely would not be included to qualify for the funds. Is that correct? Because I'd be traveling about an hour and a half from the Kona side to go down to possibly Ocean View area, and that takes about an hour and a half, and I would need to haul my luggage, equipment, and supplies.
Well, travel, if travel expenses are needed, to deliver the program, that part's fine. I'll relook at that language. The intent of restricting vehicles is we do not want any funds to be used to purchase vehicles, ATVs, golf carts, those kind of things that we've seen in homesteads. They would need to find other funds to pay for those things. So that's really the intent. But if that's not clear, we will relook at that language and issue an addendum for that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay. All right. And then how long do you think it would take to get a nonprofit set up?
Oh.
Because I was going to go under my this other organization through their entity, and they advised me not to set up a nonprofit, but it seems like through this program, I don't have to do that.
Yeah, only nonprofits are eligible.
Okay.
You really should seek professional advice on that. As the department, we're only here for the RFP requirements. That's really all I can speak to. But questions about, setting up a nonprofit, how long, we cannot provide any kind of advice on that. Check with your contacts, check with nonprofits you already know, ask them how long it took and what it takes. But yes, the RFP requirement is only nonprofits are eligible.
Okay, so then can I submit a proposal under somebody else's nonprofit for now, or say my nonprofit is pending and hope that it would be completed by October 6th? Could I do that?
Project teams are okay. Again, read through the RFP. There needs to be an applicant who is eligible as a nonprofit. If you want to form a HUI, you want to have a team, you want to have a partner, those are all allowable. But again, the actual applicant needs to be a nonprofit.
Okay. Mahalo.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks very much, Gigi. Thank you very much for the question. Let's see, right now I'm showing no additional questions in the chat, nor do I see any other hands raised. Again, folks, if you'd like to ask a question, if you could please raise your hand, or you're welcome to drop it in the chat, and we'll give it just a minute or two more. And if not, then we'll assume that everybody knows and understands what's going on and what they need to do.
Do we have anyone on the phone, Michael?
Not that I can see. Everybody is identified here. I don't see any phone numbers. I just see everybody's names.
Okay, I always like to check because
I see.
I forget.
Yeah, Sybil raised her hand again. Sybil, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So just one more question to confirm, because of the conversation that you had earlier and what you went. So 501c3, but you also said that eligible homestead associations can apply, those that don't have the 501c3, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It's very specific in the RFP.
Okay,
So
just want to make
please read
sure.
the RFP. And again, I've made mistakes in some of these orientation sessions. So, we will be issuing an addendum. We're capturing all the chat box questions we've had all week. People have sent in emails. So we are compiling all of that. So the written responses from the department are the official responses. Okay. I'm just trying to do a courtesy and doing the best I can on the fly here on the phone or on the chat and in Zoom. But ultimately, the department's written responses is the official responses.
So for example, Kalamono Malcolm Homestead Association, we do not have a 501c3 nonprofit status. So we don't need to go look for a fiscal sponsor in any of the 4 categories, correct? We can apply on our own as an association.
I cannot comment on a specific applicant. So just read through the
generally.
RFPs, read the RFPs, and whatever your situation is, you need to determine if you fit one of the RFPs, one or all the RFPs. No, I did have a slide, so the presentation will be available. I think on one of the slides, it does specify the 3 types of nonprofits. So you can go back to those. You can go back to the slide where you can, of course, read the RFP that also specifically gives the types of nonprofits.
All right, thank you again, Gigi. Thank you again for the question. Still looking for anyone who has questions. I see Gail's had her video on the entire time. Hi, Gail. Okay, I don't see any other questions, Gigi. So at this time, if you'd like to go ahead and conclude the meeting, you're welcome to.
All righty. I think it also because it's Aloha Friday and it's getting near the lunch.
Could be.
But again, thank you, everybody. We have 4 grant opportunities. Please read the RFPs very carefully. Most questions can be answered there. If you still have questions, please email them to the dhhl.grants@hawaii.gov. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I have one more question that just came in the chat box from Tia.
All right.
And her question is, who do we contact should we have questions after reviewing the RFPs?
Okay. Written questions, please send to dhhl.grants@hawaii.gov. We do not want to get phone calls because, again, we don't want to have any misunderstandings verbally as to what qualifies, what doesn't qualify, a specific situation, etc. This is a formal state procurement process. Written questions sent to that email address up until August 12th. And the department will prepare a response and post it on the HANS website. If you have questions after August 12th, the only risk is we may or may not get to it in a timely manner because it's becoming crunch time for us. But we will try to answer everyone's questions best we can. Alrighty.
All right. Thanks, Gigi.
Okay.
Sorry, Mike, I was muted, and so I was talking, but you didn't hear me because my buttons all I get all confused with this kind of stuff. I got the gist of the meeting, and I really appreciate you guys for having it.
You're welcome.
I'm learning.
Very good. Thanks for being on the call. Okay,
Absolutely.
with that being said, folks, I think that we're done. Gigi, was there anything else that you wanted to share as we close?
Nope, that was it.
All right. Okay, mahalo, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank
And we
you.
look forward to seeing your, we
You
look
guys
forward to
as
seeing
well.
your,
Mahalo.
your submittals.
Bye, Gigi. See you later.
All right. Mahalo, everyone.
earlier on in my career, but I feel